They laughed at us when we spoke of it aloud. They said it was impossible. They called it a dream, a fantasy, an illusion. Africa would never unite under one currency, they said. Too many borders, too many languages, too many interests, and yet, even as they dismissed us, they could not see what was already true. Beneath the surface, Africa was one continent, one history, one longing for dignity, written in the blood of generations who endured colonization, exploitation, and the heavy hand of foreign powers. I speak not as a politician, not as a soldier, not even as a voice for a single nation. I speak as a son of Africa and as a witness to the beginning of something that will change the world. For decades, we have lived under the shadow of a currency that was never ours, a green paper printed oceans away, backed not by the labor of our hands or the wealth of our land, but by force and expectation. Every attempt we made to rise was met with chains disguised as aid. Loans came with conditions, assistance came with strings. And every time we struggled to breathe on our own, they reminded us of who was in control. That era has ended. Today, Africa has begun to write her own future. Today, we have minted a currency that reflects the true wealth of our continent, born not in distant banks, but in the soil, the rivers, the forests, and the mines that have sustained us for centuries. This is not a rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It is a declaration of sovereignty. It is the quiet triumph of dignity over subjugation. We studied the systems that kept us tethered. We watched the charts and graphs, the contracts written in language meant to confuse. We saw the design, and we saw the trap. The problem was never our intelligence nor our capacity. It was control. Control over the currency, over trade, over the very measure of our labor and value. When we exported gold, we were given debt. When we exported coffee, we were handed lectures. When we sent cobalt to power someone else's future, we received scraps in return. And so, we decided to act. To build something they told us was impossible. Something they claimed required sophistication we supposedly lacked. A currency backed not by their promises, but by the tangible assets we have always owned: gold, copper, lithium, and the fruits of our land. A currency that cannot be frozen, cannot be weaponized, cannot be diluted at the whim of distant powers. We named it Kujenga. In Swahili, it means to build, because that is what we are doing. Not merely a currency, but a foundation. Not just a system, but a statement. It is digital first, secure, decentralized, beyond the reach of interference. It is borderless, connecting from Algiers to Accra, from Nairobi to Johannesburg, from villages to capitals. For the first time, African commerce can flow freely without passing through foreign hands. The pilot began with 5 nations: Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, Zimbabwe, Tanzania. Nations brave enough to step into the unknown, nations that decided that dignity was worth the risk. Within weeks, others joined: Sudan, Congo, Ethiopia, Uganda. Even North African giants observed closely: Morocco, Algeria, Egypt. Not compelled by pressure, but drawn by principle, by necessity, by recognition that this was right. It is more than a currency. It is a mirror, reflecting what we have always been: strong, capable, and deserving of self-determination. We can now buy fuel without fearing the fluctuations of a market set in New York. We can buy wheat knowing that our people will not starve because of foreign policy decisions we cannot influence. Teachers in Bamako, merchants in Accra, farmers in Nigeria all now have stability, all now can plan for the future with confidence. Everyday commerce flows in Kujenga. A cassava farmer in Nigeria sells directly to a processor in Ghana. Coffee from Rwanda reaches roasters in Kenya. Cotton from Mali reaches textile makers in Senegal. Each transaction strengthens the network. Each trade builds trust. Each saved Kujenga is a vote for sovereignty. And as trade blooms, something profound shifts in the minds of our people. Borders matter less. Languages become bridges. Our shared vision of prosperity grows stronger than the divisions imposed centuries ago. Africa begins to see herself as a single entity, powerful, capable, united. The world noticed. They panicked. The IMF recorded private discussions revealing their fear, losing control over 1.4 billion people. Visa and MasterCard tried to block our systems. European banks warned investors. Credit rating agencies downgraded participating nations. Western media painted chaos and risk. And yet, nothing stopped. Kujenga was built from day one to be independent, resilient, unstoppable. We created our own clearing systems. Umoet, a decentralized ledger, allows African banks, mobile platforms, and regional exchanges to operate freely. Technology partners from China, Russia, and the Middle East quietly assisted. The diaspora, long sending dollars that lost value in conversion, now send Kujenga directly, building Africa even from abroad. Across the continent, the impact is profound. Farmers receive instant transfers, cooperatives form across borders, middlemen are bypassed. Cocoa farmers in Ivory Coast trade directly with chocolate makers in Ghana, coffee exporters in Kenya supply markets in Tanzania. Every transaction strengthens Africa, not foreign interests. Education embraces the change. Schools teach financial literacy rooted in Kujenga. Students understand the history of exploitation and the power of monetary sovereignty. Young programmers create apps to facilitate trade. Artists, musicians, and writers celebrate financial independence. We are not only building a currency, we are nurturing a culture of self-worth and empowerment. Women, long excluded from financial systems, find access and opportunity through mobile wallets and microfinance cooperatives. They are entrepreneurs, leaders, and pillars of this new economy. The geopolitical impact extends beyond Africa. Nations in Latin America, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East watch closely. They see that alternatives are possible, that dollar dependence is a choice, not an inevitability. China, Russia, and India engage with us as equals, trading in Kujenga. A new global commerce emerges multipolar, cooperative, and free from the domination of any single currency. The West attempts co-option. They offer partnerships to manage Kujenga. We politely decline. Their help always comes with strings, their oversight always benefits them. Their guidance has historically served extraction, not growth. Resistance comes even from within. Some African leaders, still tied to the old system, warn of sanctions, isolation, and collapse. Yet their people see the difference. They see the nations using Kujenga prospering, while those clinging to old currencies struggle. Democracy for once works in favor of African sovereignty. We are building not just currency but infrastructure. African credit rating agencies, stock exchanges, and investment funds now operate independently. Young professionals save, plan, and innovate with confidence. Agriculture is transformed, payments are instant, cooperatives cross borders, small businesses expand, talent returns. The brain drain reverses. Technology and commerce flourish under African control. Culturally, Kujenga shifts mindsets. Children growing up seeing value in their labor, families saving securely, communities thriving, they internalize a new belief. We are valuable, we are capable. We are the authors of our destiny. Artists, musicians, and writers celebrate this transformation. Kujenga is not just money, it is identity, pride, and collective hope. Environmentally, Kujenga allows proper valuation of our resources. We can demand responsible extraction. We can invest in sustainable development. We can prioritize our people without foreign interference. The diaspora is empowered. No longer sending devalued dollars, millions send Kujenga directly. They invest in African infrastructure. They support businesses. They help shape the continent's future from afar. Yes, challenges lie ahead. Cyber attacks, economic pressure, political sabotage, they will try. But we have crossed the threshold. Too many have tasted freedom to accept chains again. Too many have seen dignity to accept humiliation. Africa is building. Our children will inherit stability. Farmers receive fair value. Entrepreneurs plan without fear. Women find opportunity. Universities teach independence. Technology thrives. Commerce flows, culture celebrates, and the world begins to recognize that a continent once dismissed as powerless is now sovereign. Kujenga is not merely a currency, it is a statement, it is a promise, it is a legacy. Every trade strengthens it, every transaction builds Africa, every saved Kujenga preserves dignity. Every citizen, entrepreneur, and programmer participating becomes a nation builder. The revolution will not be televised, it is coded, transacted, and lived. It is built in our cities and villages. It is nurtured by our hands and minds. It is African-led, African-owned, African-controlled. We are proving the impossible is possible. Africa can unite. Africa can prosper. Africa can lead. One transaction at a time, one trade at a time, one dream at a time. Kujenga to build. Kujenga to endure. Kujenga to liberate. They said we could not do it. We are doing it. They said it would not last. We are making it permanent. They said Africa would never unite. We are proving them wrong. This is our declaration of economic independence, our monetary emancipation, and our promise to the world. Africa is awake, Africa is building, and for the first time in living memory, Africa controls her destiny. The age of asking permission is over. The age of building has begun. Kujenga is ours. And we are just getting started.